Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in, listening today, episode number 7, Vox&Hops. Today I sat down with my friend Aaron Keay Homma. He's the guitarist of Killitorous and also the guitarist of Annihilator. We have an awesome conversation about him growing up listening to Disney music and musicals, about getting signed to a label at a young age, and how he handles the transition between touring with Killitorous and Annihilator. He also speaks about a topic which is somewhat controversial, about touring with musicians which are not the founding members of the band, touring with replacement members, whereas if a certain key member of the band can't be in a tour, is it okay to tour without them, and in his opinion about that. Let's check it all out. Here it is, Vox&Hops, episode number 7.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm here with Aaron Keay Homma in the backstage of the Piranha Bar in Montreal. He's here on his tour with his band Killitorous.
It's quite nice back here.
It's one of the cleaner backstages I've been in.
Well, the place has been redone since the stage is on the different side of the room now since the last time I was here, so I guess they just revamped the place. It's very nice and clean back here, which is why we chose to stay here and not go to Frit Alors.
That's right, yeah. And there's not as many penises on the walls as most backstages.
No, not enough. Well, it is nice to see you, though, Matt. You know.
Yeah, we're on a good ratio. We were together last week at Yuri Raymond's show at Unhuman. Crossed each other there. That was a nice little blessing.
Yeah, it was actually just by chance that we were there, you know. We weren't even planning on going to that show, but we got dragged there by the forces of metal. We were rehearsing not far down the street, so it just so happened we had to go see our brother Yuri there.
So what's been going on with you?
Not much. We just did a lot of tours in Europe with Annihilator and the festivals, of course. I say tours because the year was filled with 3 or 4 tours with Testament and Death Angel and Vader, and we did a bunch of headlining stuff and then all the festivals in the summer.
That's amazing.
And now we're doing Killitorous stuff and about to release an album, and a lot of behind-the-scenes work with that release has been going on with my time.
It's very exciting.
It's good.
Must be refreshing.
It's making me feel young because I'm losing weight from all the stress. So I'm looking more like my former self.
There you go.
But I'm tired.
There's something about metal that keeps us all looking young, though.
Well, I always talk about how when we go on a tour, and we go on any tour, whether it's a festival that's you're gone for a week, or you're gone for one of the long haul 6 weeks or longer, it feels like an extended day. When you leave your house and when you get home, it's like, oh, I'm back home, now the day's over.
Yeah.
But you watch your friends get old and have kids and accomplish things, and you kind of feel like you've been at the same spot, even though you're doing stuff. It's just in that realm that they don't even understand, you know?
No, it's a very tricky thing. I'm lucky. I have key friends that I've kept throughout, all my touring experiences, the people that are not in the music industry, but a lot of them don't seem to comprehend it. It's sort of hard to keep those friends close unless it's those type of friends that you don't need to hang out with, and when you hang out with them, they're nothing's changed. Those are the diamond in the rough, true friends that
of course
I like to hang on to.
It's weird. I find that the best friends I've made now that I hang out with the most are guys I've met on tour, actually. So they kind of know what it's all about. But I feel totally like I'm watching some of my friends from high school just get older around me.
How old are you now?
I'm 31 now.
There you go.
You know,
so it's the once when I hit the 30s, all my friends were just finishing getting married, and then the kids were coming. I don't know if that's the same thing for you.
Man, my Facebook wall is just filled with babies and marriages.
And wedding invites that you can't go to because you're on tour.
Exactly, that's it.
Yeah.
And that maybe that's also what makes it feel like one long day. That extended just perpetual, Groundhog Day with Bill Murray.
Yeah,
It feels
exactly.
kind of like that, being on tour. You wake up and even though you're in a different place, you're in the same tour bus, or you're in the same van, or whatever. It's the same thing every day.
I do tend to listen to that Nine Inch Nails song every day is exactly the same. I pull it out at least once a tour when I'm like in a mood and I'm on a walk there.
Yeah.
At least once a tour.
But that's it for me, the perpetual touring. I think that'll be what we do, you and me both, for the rest of our existence.
I wouldn't complain.
Yeah, me neither.
There's definitely the high parts, but there's always the low parts.
Yeah.
Let's think about this beer.
All right.
I brought a special beer for you.
Out of these
It's,
sweet, heavy
it's called-
MTL glasses you got.
Yeah, and Puzza Fest. We're backstage. I didn't want to just drink out of a red plastic solo cup.
Yeah, what are we, fucking savages? No.
So I brought cups from home, and they're both from Heavy MTL and Puzza Fest.
You party in style, my friend, and that's why I love
This the beer I brought is from Le Trou du Diable. It is called L'Ours. It's called, which is
that's
the bear.
nice and sour, eh?
Yeah, so off the nose, it will be a sour type beer.
The man who makes my guitars, Mr. Bond, is obsessed with these.
There you go. I mean, I should
These
interview.
sour
I should
beers.
interview Philip Bond.
Oh, he's
that's a really good idea.
Cat, man.
Yeah, I'm down
going to
for
go
that. You're
stay
gonna
at his house
I heard
tomorrow
that, yeah.
because it's Drummondville's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you let him know that I want to interview him because that would make sense.
Yeah, it'll be the first thing I say.
Yeah. So this is an assembly of beers. So what they did is they blended 20% sour rye beer, which is aged for 2 years in Benilus
Oh, this is totally
barrels.
a Yuri thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. 80% young season. So it's going to start off like smelling like a sour, but it's going to end up like ending with a little bit more refreshing finish and a little bit oaky.
It's nice. I like it, man.
It smells really good. It feels like a sour. Le Trou du Diable was bought out by Molson and Coors last March, and there was like a whole uproar in the craft brewing
Of course.
community.
That's what
because-
happens when someone takes over a little guy, right?
That's right. But for me, apparently they get to continue to run independently, and the fact that they're still releasing interesting beers like this, and they're not just sticking to their classic six, still gives me hope that they're going to keep continuing to put out
Yeah, man.
quality.
This whole
quality
sour beer thing is new to me because I basically quit drinking beer 3 years ago, for that
Really?
DVD. We did a live DVD, and I was preparing for it by slimming down a bit so that I don't have to look at DVDs of myself being a fat, piece of crap for the rest of my life. So I slimmed down, and then I just didn't start drinking beer again. I switched to the clear liquor, and some whiskey. Bourbon.
It definitely packs on some pounds.
But
I find myself dancing around.
I've found myself drinking these beers now because of Mr. Bond we were just talking about. I just did the Vancouver Guitar Fest, and he got, during my birthday, which was actually on the 12th of August, not too long ago.
Happy belated birthday.
Belated, yes. But we're celebrating it today with these beers, and I had some with Bond, too, and it's like... I guess these sour beers are a new thing. They're kind of cool.
So I find it very interesting that they take two beers that they've made, they mix them together, and then they age them even longer.
Man, Yuri used to do that on tour all the time. He would mix IPAs with stouts, imperial stouts. He'd do like 70% IPA and then 30% that some black beer, right? And it would turn out to be really good, but if you drank a lot of it, it wouldn't sit well on my stomach, and I'd get super, super sick, and then I wouldn't be driving to the next venue.
No. So this beer has a 3.99 out of 5 untapped rating and a 6% alcohol in it. Do you remember your first experience with beer?
With beer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was the first time I ever drank, actually. I didn't really know anything and about drinking, and I was actually against drinking my whole life. I was one of those guys who played guitar and didn't really party much, but I smoked tons of weed, and I never really drank until I was about 18 or 19.
Really?
And the first time I drank, I remember I was drinking with some of my skid friends, and they were saying, let's just drink each a Colt 45, right? Which is like the equivalent to like a Schlitz or like an Old English, And I remember we just drank them as fast as we could, And I've never been that sick ever again, drinking. So I didn't drink again after that for years. And then I didn't really get into beers until I started touring with Yuri. And even before that a little bit, when we were recording with Chris, the first album there, he got me into nicer beers and stuff, and then we started hanging out more and more. And as you know, we're friends. We're all friends, right? So when that friendship started happening in Quebec, when I moved here, beer became a hobby. And then when I moved back to Ontario and started doing the Annihilator stuff more so, and I had to do that fucking DVD, no more beer.
You had to make a cut somewhere.
But now I'm like returning to it, it seems, and there's all the sour stuff, and like cartoons and candy are my favorite things, and sour candies are my favorite. So that I'm pretty stoked on it.
Yeah, you're not the first to have said that the transition from liking sour candies as a child into like liking the sourness and sour beers.
Like, Sour Patch Kids in my bag.
That's funny.
So yeah, the first experience, Colt 45, vomit, back of friend's car, embarrassment, etc.
What about when you're touring the world? Do you have like a
I don't
favorite?
drink.
You don't drink on tour ever?
No. I have like every now and then I'll have a couple shots of whiskey, a couple shots of vodka, which is a normal thing at the end of the night. But I don't drink before we play usually because I don't want to fuck up how we play, And even if you make a mistake that isn't in any way affiliated with your drinking, you're still going to blame it on that.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. So I don't like to have any of those crutches in the way,
That's good. That's wise. You got to be sharp.
But if I were to drink anything on tour, and I do go looking for it a lot, it's in like I said, I love candy and cartoons, right? I also, soda pops go with that.
Okay.
I even have a soda machine at my house. That's how much I love soda
like
pop.
A fountain soda machine at home.
Exactly.
Wow.
So I like
what flavors?
Fritz Cola. Fritz Cola in Germany is like the best thing ever, man.
It is good. Yeah, that's true.
It's unreal good. But other than that, it's not too much.
Tell me about your early life growing up. What were you like when you were a kid and you in high school?
I was basically the exact same as I am right now, to be honest, especially since high school. But maybe when I was younger, any Canadian kid, man, I just did sports, like theater stuff, like I did everything that was available to do in Canadian schools.
When you say theater, were you acting?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, I could see that.
Took part in all the theater stuff, but I was highly into the athletic department of our school too, weightlifting and all that stuff in high school. Then, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, right?
I did not know that.
And then my dad convinced me to not do it and to do music instead.
What was...
So music was like the viable backup. you know what I mean? Like,
what was his argument?
Well, he said that you're not big enough. You're going to have to be one of those crazy high flyers, and you're going to destroy your body, and you're not going to know who you are by the time you're 43. And
which a lot of those guys are.
You look at how it rolled out.
Yeah.
He wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, music was like the option that wasn't as crazy. Which is, you're laughing because like for most guys in our industry, like music is like the taboo no thing. So my parents were really like cool about it and really wanted me to do it.
Did you grow up in a house with like music playing all the time? Instruments were around?
Yeah. Heavy Broadway influenced house, actually.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, my whole family.
What would be the soundtrack to your youth?
Oh, like Cats and Phantom of the Opera and Joseph and stuff like that. All the Weber stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But then again, like all the Disney movies back when we were growing up were musicals too. So anything that Howard Ashman, I think, and what's his name, Alan Menken wrote was pretty cool. They did all the Disney movies in the 90s.
In the 90s, like The Lion King.
Except The Lion King, that was Elton John and someone else. I think the guy who did. I can't remember the guy. I don't know.
They were significantly better in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah, because there was like the revamp of the Disney World. That's what I grew up with.
Have you ever watched The Black Cauldron?
Oh, yeah, The Black Cauldron. Yeah, that was like re-released on VHS when we were... You were a couple years older, so you're probably like 9 or 10 when it was re-released.
It's like the creepiest Disney movie ever.
Oh yeah, it's a weird.
It's the most metal Disney movie.
It has a wizard in it too, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Sword in the Stone kind of vibe. Same
darker.
Era. Yeah. That's cool. That's a good movie. I love Disney stuff.
When did guitar start?
Guitar. 3, my aunt and uncle bought me a guitar. And
you were 3?
Yeah, and then I started messing around with the thing and figuring out how it worked, you know?
Wow.
Well, because it's a complex thing, even though, you know, people don't even understand how guitars work, you know?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what musicians fail to remember. They don't even understand how, like, what you're doing with your hands. Why do you have to push down? How's it, like, magically making notes? People don't understand. So as a kid, even if you're just touching the thing, it's useful. Then, when I got a little older, I started taking lessons and stuff.
And what bands were influencing you growing up? What took you from, like, Broadway
Well, like, my
to
favorite...
more extreme?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, my favorite band when I was growing up, and the first band I really ever heard and identified with was Silverchair.
Okay.
When I heard Frog Stomp when I was a kid, I thought it was crazy and a really freak show. But before that, I was listening to music with my parents that I didn't really... Like, I wasn't necessarily, you know, picking, but I grew up loving. So things like Hall & Oates, I love. Things like Extreme, Mr. Big, bands like that, which are just like radio rock bands, but with good songwriting, you know? That's what I was listening to. So that was kind of in the background all the time. And then the soundtracks to all those Broadway musicals and the Disney movies. But the first band was Silverchair. Still the band I love the most, I think. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You still go back to...
Yeah, I haven't changed much.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
You know.
When did you start playing in bands?
When I was 15 or 16, my friend Kyle convinced me to join a band, to start a band. And I didn't think I wanted to do it. I wasn't really into the idea because I thought I was going to make... Music was something I really used as like an escape when I was bored, tired, or stressed, you know? And I thought it was going to kind of take the fun out of that, or maybe that feeling out of it, because it would maybe add a stress to my life, having to play these songs and write these songs and do all this shit involved with playing music. Because it's a serious thing when you're in a band, you know? At least that's the way I look at it. I still look at it like that, you know? And that's why I'm still doing it. But at the time, it was kind of scary, and maybe it's because I knew I would love it so much, you know. But that's how it happened. And then I started a band with my friends, you know. And then I think that it wasn't that band, but the band eventually kind of morphed into another band, and we got signed to Sumerian. And then I left, you know, and leave the band.
What band is that?
They were called Today I Caught the Plague.
Really?
They changed
Okay,
the name to
yeah.
The Kindred. I wasn't in the band when they changed the name.
Okay.
That was my first band, you know, the first thing I ever worked on, really, that was anything, you know.
For that dream story. Were you in the band when it got signed?
No.
That
So
was
I
afterwards?
left, and then they got signed. And I was in a different band at that time, too. I was immersed on Unique Leader Records. So
Okay.
then I started my band, too, around the same time. So it's...
Which is Killitorous.
Yeah, and then I joined Vital Remains. Then I left to join Annihilator. Yeah, that's it. That's the name of the band that I play for right now.
And how did you end up in Annihilator?
Actually, we're in Montreal, and oddly enough, the person who's putting this show on tonight, Nick Guérin,
Shout out
who's
to
a
Nick.
good friend of mine and yours and everyone's in the scene here. Maybe you can give him a little bit more of a description than I could even.
He is promoter extreme. He used to run band T-shirt sales point, which was called Labyrinth.
And it's just was a big depot with thousands of band shirts.
I used to take the train from Two Mountains and come down just to go shopping there to get my band shirts. Yeah,
of course. You, me, everyone bought their patches and shirts and fucking army
posters,
boots and
my
shit
posters
there.
for my walls because back in the day I had posters on my walls.
Of course. So he actually, I guess, recommended me to Jeff, who's the patriarch of Annihilator and the founding member and the guy. And Nick said, if you're looking for someone in Ottawa or in Ontario, Aaron might be interested, but even if Aaron's not interested, he'll be able to point you in the right direction to someone. So the message I got from Jeff was actually more like, hey, I know you're a busy guy, but I was really hoping that you could point me in the right direction of just finding someone. And then I said, actually, I would be more interested in just doing it myself, you know?
Were you familiar with the catalog of the band? You knew the band?
Not really, to be honest. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it so bad.
Because you didn't know the band.
Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, I would have pursued your band more to try to join you guys more.
Yeah, I would have been happy.
You know,
but
and
so it's not like that dream thing. It's the same
because that's more up my alley. You know,
and it's around the same time frame too when we lost Yuri and we were becoming a 4-piece. Yeah.
To be honest, you know, like and it's because I wanted to expand my playing. I wanted to expand my portfolio. I want to expand everything I was working on at the time.
Me too, like joining Cryptopsy, I wasn't like an uber fan.
Oh, yeah, I know. I remember how it was back then. Dude, I couldn't fucking believe it when I went on the back then there was not really like this Facebook, it was MySpace, and it wasn't as personal and wasn't as updatey to everyone's lives. So when I saw that you were in the band, I couldn't even fucking believe it. You know, it's just, I can't wait to see Matt next time and tell him how proud I, you know, all that shit.
Oh. Took me time to feel comfortable in the band, but I'm definitely sitting very comfortable now.
Man, it's good to challenge yourself like that, you know? It's like when I was playing with Arima, like that's black metal. I never played black metal in my life. You know, me and Nick both, or Nick and I should say, we played for that band on a couple tours, and I've played with them on more tours than that. And I think I'll do it again at some point when I get the time. They're great friends, great dudes. I love them all.
How do you handle the transition between those festival tours in the tour bus to these situations in a bar and you're traveling in a van?
Well, the truth is, like,
honestly,
you're not going to expect it, but sometimes when I'm sitting in that bus, I get itchy and wish that I was in the van with the guys. You know?
Is it a different vibe?
Not because I don't wish I was with Annihilator, but because it's just like you're kind of stuck with, when you're in a van, you're stuck with the guys face to face, essentially. And when someone has a joke or something, or has, you know, if this person breathes funny, they're getting targeted and they're getting made fun of, and the time passes really fast.
Faster in a van.
Of course, yeah. It's way more comfortable in a bus and with the hotels and stuff. And that's like a rule in Killitorous, you know. We don't. There's a couple rules. Like we don't stay in hotels. Like it's if we can't find somewhere, we're sleeping in that van together. You know, we're all. It's like going to battle.
So you guys like have to.
You're
hustle.
talking about CCR, man. You put the CCR on in that van, and then maybe it starts to feel a little bit more real because that music matches the war that we're going through. You know, but we like it and we miss it. We all miss it when we're going and doing our thing. Every now and then we say, you know, it's been a couple months. We need one of those van tours to set ourselves straight, you know?
You find it humbles you, or?
I think it's lots of fun. It's just different, you know? There's a reason why, I don't know this firsthand, but I mean, there's a reason why a lot of those bands that are on the next level still choose to tour in a van. It's not just for expenses, you know?
Camaraderie? I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Camaraderie? Yeah.
For the brotherhood of metal.
Yeah.
But I think it is hard sometimes. Like right now, I'm tired, and because we did the late loadout, we partied and all that stuff, and I'm not used to like doing it like this anymore. But I mean, it's awesome. I love it.
When you're on stage with Annihilator versus being on stage with Killitorous versus being on stage with Arima, do you perform differently, or are you always just the same?
I try to keep some things consistent, but I try to like make a character for each one of the bands.
Okay.
It's like being a wrestler, right?
Yeah. Yes. You see. So you took some of the stuff from your plan A.
Of course, it's just like being a character. It's like doing anything, you know. I'm gonna do more drop kicks with the '80s thrash metal band than I'm gonna do with Killitorous. But with Killitorous, there's still a couple in there. It's just
your hands are a little busier.
My hands are more busy. My head, I'm more head banging, less sleeves, you know, on all the shirts at the Killitorous shows. Everyone's got tattoos at the Killitorous shows on their faces and necks.
Who's one of the best hired musicians you've played with?
Hired musicians that I've played with, like in Killitorous or in Annihilator,
in all the bands that you played with.
Well,
yeah.
There's like so many guys. It's always drummers, because drummers are so hard to find, and drummers are they're really like the force behind the band because they're setting the tempo, they're maintaining it, and you really only hear the mistakes the drummer makes.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, so for
they're
me,
more noticeable. Yeah.
Like I got to play with Gene Hoglan. He's unbelievable. Dave Lombardo, unbelievable. Mike Mangini, got to play with him, unbelievable.
Is that all on the boat?
I get to play with Eric Marotti. You know, he's amazing.
Unbelievable.
I get to play
Shout
with
out to Eric.
He's amazing too. Like Nick is an unbelievable drummer. He's playing Eric's part parts to a click, you know?
Yeah.
These drummers are all crazy, you know?
Just to clarify, what you're saying is that Eric Marotti, drummer of Killitorous, also drummer of Suffocation, is not here tonight.
And we got a guy filling in. Nick Wells, LeFou is his name. Go. You know, like from Beauty and the Beast. Seriously? Okay, he's right over there. He's in the room, by the way.
Shout out.
He's setting his drums up backstage. Well, he's playing for so many bands right now.
He's right here setting up his drums.
For First Fragment, I know that much. Who else?
He's playing for First Fragment.
I think he's filling in for Bane on the next tour. What? Are you playing with Bane on their next tour?
Yeah,
Bane. Yeah, he's
okay. Bane from Serbia.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got him to come in to do this tour.
Prognostic.
Yeah. Okay,
they're from
cool.
Quebec here. Yeah, from Montreal.
And why Eric was just not available?
Well, we were supposed to do another week of shows, and actually Nick wasn't even supposed to do the drums. He didn't have time to do it. We had another guy who was going to fill in. He broke his wrist.
Oh my!
So we had to cancel the first week, which Eric was not able to do. The timing didn't work, and Eric only got into town, I think, today or yesterday, back in Ottawa. So I don't even think it would. The timing wasn't right, and we had to get some shows done for a lot of different reasons. But we had the shows booked for a long time, you know. Also, he's really killing the drum parts. It's unbelievable watching someone else play the parts, because for me, Eric's like such a key part of the band, you know. He wrote some of the songs we're playing live, you know. So
he's an absolute prolific player, that's for sure.
He's crazy, you know. It's crazy.
What is it like being on this road, like with new people? There's been like a lot of member changes. You know, I hate when I get this question asked to me in Cryptopsy too. You know, like why so many member changes, and you know, a lot of singer changes. How do you feel? Where are you guys now, and how do you feel with the lineup now?
Well, member changes are weird because bands are made up of humans, and these humans are supposed to add so much of themselves to the band, right? But bands also like have an aesthetic themselves and a life of their own. It's a weird thing. There's some bands I find that have members that are so important, so prolific, that the members are even more important than the band themselves. You know, sometimes people are going, like, a good example is like Derek Roddy, okay? When Derek Roddy's playing for a band, okay, if it was a jazz band, there'd be a bunch of guys wearing Hate Eternal shirts at that show waiting to talk to him, or just watching him play the whole fucking time. And it's the same thing for any musician, I think. The guys I got in the band right now are so talented. It's unbelievable. And they themselves are in different big bands, like Eric or like Nick, who's in First Fragment, and he's joining another band I can't talk about right now, but he's joining another big band.
I'll ask you after.
Yeah. And it's just, it's important having good guys, right? But in a certain way, the band attaches itself to the key members anyway. So, like, me and Nick and Eric have been there the longest, so the band's kind of just sewn to our hip, you know? We're just kind of synonymous with it. It's like Jeff's been in Annihilator for so long that he's been there since day one. You know, he is Annihilator. So it's like, obviously people are going to recognize him all the time, and they're going to recognize the fact that he is the guy. All these other members, obviously they play a key role in the band existing. But I think that at a certain point, like I was saying earlier, the band becomes bigger than these people, right? So the band continuing is just the main idea.
Do you feel like you found a solid vocalist, though?
Oh, for which band?
For Killitorous.
I think for both bands, first of all. Like, Jeff in Annihilator is perfect.
Yeah, but I've seen a bunch of stuff.
He should be fucking singing. He should have been singing the whole time, in my opinion, just because the stuff in the 90s, the early 90s, was, for me, the best Annihilator stuff, other than the 80s stuff. I love 80s metal. Like, that's one of my favorite things. I wasn't familiar with Annihilator's discography because it's more on the thrashier side. But I love, like, 80s, like the Extreme and Mr. Big, you know, like I was saying.
Yeah.
So with Annihilator, I think Jeff's perfect. With our band, I think the same thing. I think Matt Danny's the guy. You know, we actually wanted him before. We wanted, Yuri, and that's not saying that we didn't want Yuri. We didn't even think to ask Yuri at that point. The first guy we always asked whenever someone quit our fucking band or got fired was Matt Danny. And he was in school. He had all these obligations, and eventually it became just his band. You know, he said, okay, I'll just do the tour. And then he's like, I'll do every tour. I'll just be in the band. Now, the stuff we've been working on is going to be, it's so much more vocally oriented, you know? Like,
he came more prepared.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. I'm really excited to show the world what Matt Danny has in store. Like, even his friends who have heard our pre-production stuff, like, this is you, because, like, he's doing different stuff than he's used to doing, you know? He's not just doing his deathcore vocals. He's kind of expanding.
Is he from a deathcore band? I'm not familiar with.
He's from the deathcore scene. You know, he's from a band called Epiphany from the Abyss.
Okay.
And they've just released their last EP. I think it's an EP. Either way, it's fucking crazy. Super tech stuff, and that's how we found him. We found him because he sounded so much like what we were looking for. It was crazy, and we knew that if he was doing what he was doing with his band, then there was no way he couldn't do the little extra things we wanted him to do, or the extra things that we think he can get good at doing. You know,
that's amazing. Yeah.
It's good.
Do you find it hard continuing Killitorous with the double, triple other bigger projects rolling at full steam?
It's so hard.
You know, like First Fragment, Annihilator, and Suffocation.
The idea is to find people who can fill in for all the guys who, when they're gone, including myself, so that the band can continue. Like I said, making the band bigger than the members themselves is essential for keeping a band like that with all these member fucking changes that everyone complains about. Making sure that the music stands the test of time is all that matters, you know? In the end, like you said, what matters in the end at this point now is going to be having that good vocalist, I think, and that's why we want Matt Danny too. He's gonna hold this band together, I think.
Awesome.
You know, he really is like going to be more the focal point of the next album.
I'm really stoked to hear him tonight.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's good. He's like my little brother.
What is the best piece of advice you would give to someone starting their first band?
There's so many things, eh? You know, like that's a hard question because there's so many things you could say and that I want to say. But the first thing that actually came to my mind, of the 10 things that came to my mind within a split second, was that for me, it always is going to go back to that band being bigger than the members thing. Because you said, like, we have all these crazy musicians that are doing other bigger bands and projects, but still the band is itself. It's its thing. It doesn't matter if those guys are in their big band. The band is still Killitorous, and it's still going to be crazy tech death with sweeps and shredding and blah, 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 and blast beats nonstop, you know? High BPM madness. It's the same thing with any other, like, situation you're doing with the band. Like, what do you ask again? What was the exact wording of the question? Hold on.
What advice would you give someone starting their first band?
It would be, don't rely on the one member. Don't rely on one really crazy guy. Like, every band, for me, whenever you see a lot of bands when you're touring, okay? A lot of bands end up opening for the tour package, or ends up like local bands is what you call them. These local bands are often really fucking great, and there's always one person who stands out in that band. And for me, I never wanted that in any of my bands.
Is it possible that you were that guy?
No, fuck that. Look at my band. You
Not
just
now.
said it.
No, I know that now, but back in the day when you were a local band, band.
And that's what I wanted to get away from. That's why my first band, I always said I wanted it to be stacked, you know? You want to have a band that is so stacked that the music's going to be greater than the band itself. It's impossible for it not to be. You just get a totally stacked group. That's my advice, is don't rely on one person who's great and have all these guys who are kind of following that one person. Try to get all these people who are great themselves and they themselves could hold down the group. Then you know you got something special.
And then you could just ride along.
Yeah, in my position, yeah. It's kind of like the Eagles, okay? The Eagles were like a super group that was made up of all these different vocalists from bands who could also play other instruments really well. They just formed this monstrous amazing group, 3 guitars as well.
There you go. Yeah,
You know?
it's my first witnessing of the 3-guitar Killitorous tonight.
The Eagles of death metal. But you know what I'm saying, right? Is for me, it hurts me when I see these bands who are really great, but there's that one guy that's just like, whoa, man, you're going to be in something special. But maybe it's just the road that has to be taken, you know? It's like all your ex-girlfriends, like, you still love them, it didn't work out and it'll never work out, you know?
Just so when you said that, like that one guy in the band, I remember playing at Rock Pile in Toronto.
Yeah.
And seeing Dean, who's now in Vital Remains.
Yeah.
Playing with his old band. I was like, oh my God, that kid is really
exactly.
fucking good.
He's fucking crazy
and
guitar,
now he's like totally doing great with Vital and gonna
doing
move
awesome
on to
stuff, man. He's doing great stuff.
Shout out to you, Dean.
Yeah, little Canadian boy.
What is the best piece of advice you received from someone when you were starting out your band?
It wasn't when I was starting out. It was a little later on in my career. And it was from Tony from Vital when I was in Vital Remains. And he said to me, you know, you're going to get fucked in this industry. And I said, okay. And he was actually helping me with some Killitorous stuff. And he said, you know, you're going to get fucked. And I said, yeah, okay. Sounds terrible, of course. And he's saying, but you got to decide if you want to get fucked in the penthouse or you want to get fucked in a dingy basement. And I said, well, if you're getting fucked in the penthouse, it doesn't sound too bad now, does it? But if you're getting raped in a basement somewhere with chains, not sexually willing, sounds pretty awful. So that was like the best advice I ever got, because now I know how to handle myself in every situation. I just imagine that it's going to turn out really bad, but
there's always a little bit of good that you can.
Yeah, I can figure out a way to try to morph it to be good,
or take the good side of the bad situation, I guess.
Yeah, you know, and that was totally the best advice I ever got, because I think about it all the time still.
What is the accomplishment you're most proud of?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a hard question.
Me as a musician, I'm never satisfied, so there's always something more.
I don't think I've got that thing yet.
Yeah. I wanted to play Whackin'. I played Whackin'.
Yeah, man.
And I want to play Whackin' again, but on a bigger stage. You know, it's like it's just never satisfied.
Yeah. But, you know, for me, the thing I'm most proud of is I don't know. It's too hard of a question, Matt. I really don't think I've got the answer to it yet. I think I'm most proud of my family at home, to be honest. Because, like, people are always surprised when they come over and they can't believe how real my life is. It's like a day-to-day normal life. Like, my vegetable garden is astonishing, and my dogs are very cute and very well behaved and know tons of tricks and are intelligent, and my wife is beautiful.
Shout out to your lovely
I love
wife.
Marika so much, you know, and this is not me trying to milk some shit here. Actually, like, my home life is good. What I'm most proud of about this is not it is the music, okay? But it's how I've managed to make music work and to be able to have a normal life at home.
Yeah.
So I am proud of music. Like, that's what I'm most proud of. But in the sense of being able to make it work, to make my home and my family awesome.
That's amazing. That's
I go
props
home
for that.
and I'm just like, I'm happy to go out on the road, but I'm also happy to go home, and that's cool. You know?
That's special. That's
I don't
really
have to live
special.
in squalor.
What's one misstep that you wish you could take back?
Oh, man.
The biggest
misstep. I wish that when I left my first band, we're talking musically, or just like, okay.
Yeah.
When I left my first band, that I didn't end on such a bad note with them, because looking back, like, there was really no need for any animosity. It's like a young kid breaking up with a girl, you know? You make maybe an enemy for no reason, when only days before you wanted to be holding hands and kissing with this person, or making music forever with this person, or you guys had a dream together, and then because you guys don't necessarily share the same dream anymore, you know, you guys are now not friends. That's my main regret.
Just burning bridges.
Yeah, burning friendships. you know?
Well, if you're ever listening to this, if they're ever listening to this, Aaron's up for a conversation.
You know, it's funny. I had one conversation of the two I needed to have last year, and it was cool, you know.
Did you feel nice after it?
Of course, man. It was really cool to be able to talk about the old days. And
it's funny how that, like, you get over it and you move on, and it still, like, nags on you, but you, like, have, like, a new life.
Yeah.
And then these, like, past things that you've done, when you've, like, cleared them away, people say you feel lighter, but you actually really do. It's a strange sensation.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, that's definitely the one regret I have musically, is that I didn't want to end things badly, but I think I was maybe a little too proud to end things on a neutral level.
It's hard, but when you're young, you're not.
I wanted
mature.
to be right when there was maybe no right answer.
I hear the band about to start.
I can hear that.
A few more questions, quick ones, easy ones. What are some guilty pleasure music that you're listening to right now?
Oh, man. I'll just tell you a story. I don't have any guilty pleasure music. I was that kid who listened to whatever he wanted, and I always remember someone telling me when I was a kid, you know, if you want to listen to the Spice Girls, you listen to the Spice Girls. If you want to listen to, you know, Django Reinhardt jazz, you listen to that. Listen to whatever makes you smile. And if music makes you smile, don't be scared to smile. All in the same sentence. It sticks with me. I tell my students when I teach music that every day, I'll get that one kid who's, when I play something on the guitar or his first exposure to playing something himself, wants to smile, but he's kind of fighting it. And I say, hey, I'll stop him. I'll put my hand on his guitar, or I'll stop the class, and I'll say, man, you can't do that. And it'll be like, what? What do you mean I can't do that? I thought that was good. I'll say, no, your playing was perfect. But if you want to smile your face off. Music should make you happy, you know? That was, all in one sentence, that person, I can't remember who that was, someone in grade school told me that. But it's no guilty pleasure. Right now I'm listening to The Midnight, which is like a new retro wave group. I'm listening to them a lot, and I'm also listening to, I've been listening to just them. The Midnight, new retro wave. That's what
I love that shit, The Midnight.
Man, my God.
I love that shit.
It changed my fucking life.
I love that shit, yeah.
As you can hear, it's getting loud back here, so Matt had a hard time. So now we're like standing super close.
No, I think we're going to wrap it up. But
it's not uncomfortable.
We're going to wrap it up. That was excellent ending.
Midnight is what I've been listening
to. Your quote about if you want to smile while you're playing something, just smile. I want to thank you for being on Vox&Hops.
No worries, man. Anytime.
Stoked to see you guys tonight.
I fucking love you. I just love you, man. It's been so long since I've been able to hang out with you on such a normal schedule. Not only because, yeah.
All the best.
Peace.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for listening to Vox&Hops episode number 7. I had such a good time with Aaron. This is my first time editing out. We were doing this interview in the backstage of the Piranha Bar, and there was this strange fan sound that was there. So I messed around with using a noise reduction thing on my editing software, and I'm not sure if it's the right decision or the wrong decision. So, bear with me. I'm learning how to do this the best way that I can. At the end of the day, the noise reduced version was the one that annoyed me the less, so keep me posted if I should have just left the fan humming in the background or not. But it's a learning process, and I'm constantly trying to get better at this, so please bear with me, and you can always shoot me your advice if you know how to do this better than I at matt@voxandhops.com. On the next episode, I sit down with Gabe Sieber, the drummer of the Kennedy Vale, and he is a live drummer for just about every other band out there, so check that out on Vox&Hops number 8. He tells me about his time while he played drums for Abbott, Power Glove, Decrepit Birth, The Faceless, and many more. And he tells me this amazing tour story, this horror tour story about how he lost his passport and how he had to go on this epic quest to try to get a new one. Coming up on Vox&Hops episode number 8. Thank you. Cheers.